Coming back from a ride, I discovered my luggage on the sidewalk with "Observe, if you want to stay here. Leave the garage, signed your loving daughter-in-law." Earlier than the taxi arrived, I called the bank. I was the one paying the mortgage. I stared at my 4 suitcases, well coated up at the sidewalk. Not able to procedure what I saw after every week journeying my sister in Seattle. All I wanted was to sink into my favorite armchair with a cup of tea. Rather, I found myself locked out of my very own domestic rain clouds collected overhead as I picked up the word tucked underneath the deal with of my biggest suitcase. The handwriting changed into unmistakable sharp slanted letters that always seemed to be in a rush. "If you want to live right here, we have the storage, your pricey daughter in regulation." My palms trembled as I examined the phrases again. I would lived in this house for 35 years, Thomas, and that I had constructed it collectively, whilst Ryan changed into only a child. We might planted each tree in the backyard, selected every fixture, painted each wall after Thomas handed away years in the past. I agreed to signal the house over to Ryan and Chelsea legally as a minimum. However, I was the one still secretly paying the loan. I fumbled for my cell phone and dialed the bank. Earlier than the taxi even pulled away, needing confirmation of what I already knew. "Yes, Mrs. Paris. We show your computerized payment of $1,867 went via remaining Friday as scheduled." The customer service representative showed thanks. I whispered, ending the decision. A heavy drop of rain splashed on my forehead as I stood there, 68 years antique, watching my belongings at the sidewalk. The sky opened up then, as though giving me permission to interrupt. "Down too, I have to have visible this coming." The sideways glances between Ryan and Chelsea whenever I noted adorning my kitchen, the no longer so subtle feedback about senior communities, wherein I wouldn't have to worry about yard paintings, the way they had rearranged the dwelling room while I was traveling my sister, closing Christmas, shifting my analyzing chair to the basement. Small matters that were not so small after the storage apartment. All of the storage door become unlocked inside a twin bed, were located in opposition to one wall with a small nightstand and lamp beside it. My clothes were hung on a portable rack. My books, picks, and keepsakes were stacked in cardboard bins categorized mother's stuff in Chelsea's handwriting. I sank onto the bed, the concrete floor under my feet via the small window. I ought to see the house, wherein I might raised my son, buried my husband, and seemingly misplaced my location in the sector. My phone buzzed with a textual content from Ryan. "Mother, we want the distance. Chelsea has been requesting a home workplace for months. The storage condominium has the whole lot you need. Do not make this difficult. Do not make this tough." As if I have been the trouble. I would never been one to cry without problems. However, the tears got here then, silent and hot against my cheeks. I thought of all of the nights I would stayed up with Ryan whilst he had bronchial asthma attacks as a toddler, the second activity I might taken to pay for his university, whilst Thomas's enterprise hit a rough patch, the weekends I'd spent watching the grandkids so Ryan and Chelsea could have couple time, and now I was reduced to a burden and inconvenience to be tucked away within the storage. I failed to reply to Ryan's text. As a substitute, I called the evictions Susan, my oldest buddy. "Linda, what is wrong?" she asked, right now sensing the trap in my voice. "I need an area to live." I controlled to mention the phrases sticking in my throat like shards of glass. "They've put me inside the garage." "Susan didn't ask for causes. I'll be there in 20 mins," she said, as I waited sitting on that thin bed surrounded by means of the boxed up remnants of my lifestyles. I decided this house had been my heart. For 35 years I would poured everything into it, my love, my savings, my dreams. And now the idea they might truly push me aside. The storage door rattled. Because the rain intensified out of doors, I checked out my trembling fingers and slowly curled them into fists. They'd no concept who they were handling. I wasn't just Ryan's mother or Thomas's widow. I was Linda Harris, and I was finished being invisible. Susan confirmed up with her nephew Brian. Become now not what I expected. Along with his jeans and Henley blouse, he appeared more like a college professor than an attorney, but his eyes have been sharp as he reviewed the mortgage statements. "I might brought so you've been making bills on a house that is no longer on your name," he stated, frowning. "And your son and daughter in regulation have been dwelling there rent-free at the same time as planning to sell it," positioned so bluntly. It sounded absurd even to me, yes. "And that they evicted you to the storage?" I nodded, embarrassment flushing my cheeks. How had I allowed matters to attain this factor? "You've got alternatives. Brian stated the monetary preparations may want to constitute a verbal agreement at minimum. You may sue for restoration of the loan payments you've made for the reason that assets transfer. Susan, who were uncharacteristically quiet, spoke up. She wishes to confront them first. Cause them to apprehend what they've achieved. Brian looked skeptical, however I knew Susan changed into proper. Before taking legal motion towards my personal son, I had to supply him one ultimate threat to make things proper. It really is how I determined myself, standing at the porch of my very own home the next day, my heart pounding as I rang the doorbell. I might lived in this house when you consider that. Before Ryan turned into born, yet right here I was a traveler requiring permission to go into Chelsea, answered her Marvel Speedy, masked with a tight smile. Linda, we were not awaiting you. I need to speak with you and Ryan. I stated, my voice steadier than I felt. She hesitated, then stepped apart. Of course are available. The dwelling room had changed again due to the fact I'd left my studying lamp was long gone, replaced by a contemporary ground lamp. I did not apprehend the family images I would organized on the mantel had been rearranged with numerous of Thomas, now lacking. Ryan emerged from the kitchen, wiping his palms on a dish towel. Mother, what are you doing here? I got here to communicate about the house, I said. Susan informed me you are making plans to promote it. Their exchanged glance confirmed the whole thing we had been going to tell you. Ryan said, not quite. Assembly my eyes as soon as everything became finalized. Finalized. I echoed, this become my domestic. For 35 years your father and I constructed this house. We raised you here. Chelsea sighed dramatically. Linda, we understand you have sentimental attachments, but we want to do what's nice for our family now. Your own family, I repeated. And what am I, an uncomfortable? Silence stretched between us. Mom, Ryan eventually stated, his tone patronizing. You signed the house over to us. We recognize the whole thing you've achieved, however it is our assets now. We get to decide what occurs to it. I took a deep breath. I've been paying the mortgage for the beyond 2 years each month, $1, $867 from my account to preserve a roof over your heads. Another glanced between them. They'd known that was your desire, Chelsea stated coolly. We by no means requested you to do that. My palms began to tremble. I did it to help you due to the fact that is what circle of relatives does, and we're grateful. Ryan said, although his tone counseled something, however, but that doesn't exchange the felony state of affairs. The residence is ours, so my 35 years right here, my monetary guide, my position in this circle of relatives, none of that matters. Ryan shrugged, searching uncomfortable, however unmoved. Mom, you're making this greater dramatic than it desires to be. We can assist you discover a pleasant senior rental. I do not want a nice senior apartment, I snapped. I want my son to show an oz of decency and admire. Chelsea stepped forward, her smile tight. Linda, I suppose you are getting emotional. Perhaps we must preserve this verbal exchange once more. This is once I knew, truly knew, that there was no solving this. The son I'd raised, the boy I would cherished. With each fiber of my being become long gone in his location, stood a stranger who noticed me as nothing extra than an obligation, a trouble to be managed. I have stopped the automatic loan bills, I stated quietly. Ryan's expression changed right away. What if you need to promote my home? You may want to pay for it yourselves. You can't do that. Chelsea's voice rose. What about our credit? We have plans. Yes, I stated. I listen. Oakwood Hills is adorable this time of year. Ryan's face darkened. Mom, the residence become Dad's gift to me. You understand that it changed into never. Surely yours. The words hit me like a bodily blow. Never, genuinely yours. 35 years of my existence disregarded in 5 words. I see, I said, my voice slightly audible. Nicely. Then I suppose there's not anything left to discuss. Taking another unexpected step, I turned to depart, my legs unsteady beneath me. As I reached the door, I paused, looking again at the son who no longer saw me. Your father might be ashamed of you, Ryan. And for the first time, so am I. I walked out. Final the door softly in the back of me. That afternoon, armed with facts from Trevor and criminal recommendation from Brian, I took some other surprising step in my new existence. I implemented for a process the help desired. Signal within the window of Rosie's cafe had stuck my eye as I walked back to Susan's residence. You want to wait tables? Susan asked, eyebrows raised after I instructed her. I used to be a waitress for the duration of university, I reminded her, and I need my personal earnings, my personal existence. I cannot simply disguise out in your spare room all the time. Susan, taken into consideration this. Well, Rosie's does have the excellent pie in town. 2 days later, I had my first shift my FT etched, and my lower back screamed by using the end of it. However, the recommendations in my pocket have been mine, earned by means of my personal fingers. The simple pride of that became something I hadn't felt in years after I again to go back to Susan's. Exhausted but oddly invigorated, there had been 6 neglected calls from Ryan on my phone. I listened to the primary voicemail. Mom, the bank known as approximately the loan, they cited something about a lien. What are you doing? Call me lower back straight away. I deleted it without listening to the others, for as soon as Ryan could must watch for my convenience, not the other manner around Susan, delivered me a glass of wine, and sat beside me on the porch swing. How does it sense? She asked softly, I taken into consideration the query, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of red and gold. It feels like I am finally waking up, I said, like I have been sleepwalking in view that Thomas died. And now you are Linda once more. Susan completed for me. I nodded, elevating my glass in a small toast to Linda Harris. It's high quality to subsequently meet her after 3 weeks of operating at Rosie's Cafe. I had settled into a routine that felt quite relaxed. My hints were modest, but steady, and the physical work kept my mind occupied. Greater importantly, I had a cause once more, someplace to be, individuals who relied on me, existence that become absolutely my own. That is why the sight of Ryan's status awkwardly, by using the hostess, stand a jolt through me. Mom, he stated, his voice softer than I would heard it in years. Are we able to speak, Rosas? The owner caught my eye from in the back of the counter. Take 15 in case you need it, Linda. I nodded and led Ryan to a nook booth far from my regulars, who had become something like friends. You appearance exclusive, he said, studying me. I smoothed down my apron. I'm special. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Mother, about the house. I am not discussing that here, I interrupted, if it is why you got here. You are wasting some time, please, he said, be aware of desperation creeping into his voice. Chelsea, and that we are in problem, the bank known as approximately the tilt, and our credit scores dropping due to the missed payments. I observed my son, his luxurious watch, his cautiously styled hair, the subtle fragrance of cologne that probably fee more than I made in a day at Rosie's. Everything approximately him screamed entitlement and comfort, a lifestyles cushioned by means of someone else's sacrifice. What do you need from me, Ryan? He leaned forward. We want you to raise the lien and resume the payments simply till we can sell the residence. The sheer audacity of it almost made me chuckle. And what do I get in return? We will make certain you're taken care of, he stated, as though providing a fantastic kindness. There is a without a doubt pleasant senior community in Westbrook. First all, I stated, raising my hand. I'm no longer interested by being sordid. I have been taking care of myself, and you for years. Mother, be affordable. You cannot preserve running right here. He gestured across the cafe dismissively. You're almost 60, 58, I corrected, and I am doing just exceptional. Ryan's face hardened slightly, his mask of contrition slipping first rate. What do you want, a percentage of the sale? I studied him, this stranger sporting my son's face. I need my domestic, returned. He blinked, then laughed nervously. It truly is not possible. We've already made a proposal on the residence in Oakwood Hills. Now not my hassle. Ryan's expression darkened. It's far your hassle. If you want a dating with your granddaughter, with any of us, the risk hung within the air. Ugly, and express my own son, using my love for his daughter as leverage. Are you threatening to maintain Emma from me? He had the decency to look slightly ashamed, but pressed on. I'm simply pronouncing households want to help each other, Chelsea, and that I have a plan for our destiny and your status within the manor. The way I stood in the manor when I paid your university tuition, once I watched Emma each weekend, so that you ought to have couple time once I signed over the residence and stored making payments, so you may want to buy that boat final summer season. Ryan flushed. It's no longer honest. No, I stated, it is no longer. My wreck became nearly over. I stood up, straightening my apron. I want to get again to work, Mother. Please. Ryan's voice cracked slightly. We want this. The house in Oakwood Hills is ideal. We cannot lose it for a moment. I noticed the little boy who used to climb into my lap with scraped knees, looking to me to make everything better, but that boy changed into long past. In his vicinity sat a man who noticed me as nothing more than a way to uncease. I'll reflect on consideration on it, I stated. Ultimately, however, I need something in writing from you and Chelsea. First, meet me at Brian Wallace's office tomorrow at 2. Alleviation washed over Ryan's face. Thank you, Mom, you may not regret this. As he left, I puzzled if I already did the following day. I arrived at Brian's workplace early, my belly in knots. I'd barely slept, going time and again the selection I'd reached in the nighttime. Ryan and Chelsea arrived precisely at 2, both dressed, like they have been attending an enterprise assembly. Chelsea's smile became tight but victorious. "Thank you for coming, Brian," commenced. "Mrs. Harris has taken into consideration your request concerning the assets on Maple Road. We appreciate that Chelsea reduce in easily. We're sure we can reach an agreement that benefits each person." Brian slid a document across the desk. "This is what Mrs. Harris proposes." Ryan picked it up. His expression shifted quickly from hopeful to stressed to furious. "What is this?" he demanded. That I stated frivolously is my situation for lifting the tilt. "I will resume the mortgage bills, however the house may be offered to me, not to strangers." Chelsea snatched the paper. "This is ridiculous. You want us to promote you the house for the last loan balance. It is well worth, as a minimum 3 instances, that it is really worth precisely what I have put into it." I spoke back. 35 years of bills, upkeep, and reminiscences. Ryan's face turned red. "You can't try this. The residence is legally ours with a lien against it." Brian interjected, "which considerably complicates any sale. We will get our very own attorney." Chelsea snapped. "You could attempt," I said, "but the process will take time, months, maybe years. Your credit score will preserve to drop the stall, and that dream domestic in Oakwood Hills, it'll be offered long earlier than you get a ruling. The truth landed hard. You planned this all along," Ryan muttered, "from the moment we moved you to the garage." "No," I stated quietly. "I simply, in the end, stopped permitting myself to be used." Chelsea stood. "All of a sudden, we need to talk about this privately." As they stepped out, Brian gave me a small nod. "You are doing the right component, Mrs. Harris." I wasn't certain. The appearance of betrayal in Ryan's eyes haunted me. Had I emerged as cold as they have been minutes later? They lower back faces grim. "Well, take delivery of your offer," Ryan said stiffly. "But I hope you understand what this means for our relationship." "I do," I stated, regular. "And I hope at some point you comprehend what it supposed when you placed my suitcases on the sidewalk." "Hi, besties. If this tale moved you, reminded you of your worth, or made you watched 2 times about letting all of us walk all over you, please do not simply scroll away. Drop a remark with the city you are watching from so I will see how far this message is achieving. Subscribe to my channel for more emotional, powerful memories like this. Stories about betrayal, resilience, karma, and triumph. And remember to hit the bell icon so you in no way miss a story that simply may be your personal reflection. Because keep in mind, your tale isn't over, and neither is your energy. Live, robust, live, ambitious, live. Subscribed.